focus to our borders as the Beitbridge is expected to see an influx of people coming back to the country after the Easter holiday. The Border Management Authority today will be at the Beitbridge port of entry to conduct law enforcement operations for the second leg. I mean, this is amongst all the other borders, of course. The BMA is also expected to deploy drones and thermal cameras for additional support. For more on this, let's speak to the BMA Commissioner then, Dr. Mike Masiapato. Commissioner, thank you so much for the time. All hands on deck then this weekend. Perhaps let's just get a quick update from you as to how things have fared so far this weekend.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Arabile. Maybe just to indicate that the first thing that we can emphasize is that we've been able to deal with the exit leg, which started just in the past week on Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. And of course, that went very much well. We're able to exit all of the people that needed to exit South Africa, as it were. But at the same time, during that particular period, something very much unusual, we also dealt with a lot of entry. In other words, people coming into the country, in Beitbridge in particular. And the reason for that has been people going into Moria, as it were. So now we are, Arabile, at the swing of the return leg, and we started yesterday with the return leg. And of course, we are dealing with that throughout the entire country. So we are expecting today, being Easter Monday, to be the apex in terms of the return. And of course, we had started yesterday, and there has been some bit of uptick. Typical example here at Beitbridge, we've been able just to return around 10,000 or so. Actually, we processed over 10,300 individuals, and out of that, over 7,100 were returning into the country, and around 3,000 were exited. Therefore, today, Arabile, we are expecting a very complicated process, because it is always easy to say we are dealing with the exit, we are dealing with the return. But in Beitbridge in particular, we are going to be dealing with a complex setup, because as we deal with the return, there's going to be a lot of buses coming through into the port, and these are the people who had been in Moria that are exiting the country, as it were. Otherwise, we are very much ready to be able to process both that volume in terms of the exit and entry in Beitbridge, as the colleagues are doing the rest in the rest of the other ports.
Yeah. Commissioner, have you needed additional staff, and how many have you needed, both on the exit leg and this return leg?
Yeah, you see, Arabile, that is one thing that we do in this particular period. What we basically do in this kind of periods, we literally call all the staff complement into duty. There is nobody who is actually on rest day, including the executive management coming from head office, as well as our provincial, our regional teams. They are actually on the ground supporting the officials. So in terms of Beitbridge, we have a staff complement of around 300 as the BMA, but of course working together with the rest of the other stakeholders like the police, obviously SNDF, SARS, and all of the other teams, including the traffic teams of Musina, for example, on the corridor here in Beitbridge. So otherwise, everybody is here. We have actually created what we call your temporary processing areas. For instance, we have a place here in Beitbridge called Manyeka Bypass, meaning that all the small vehicles, as they arrive at the port, they don't necessarily come directly to the port. We've created a bypass, and that is where we also we process people with small vehicles. The trucks are processed in a separate place, and the people coming with buses are processed in a separate place. Yeah.
All right. How have operations fared, considering the increased use of technology as well, and of course with illegal border crossings?
Yeah, you see, Arabile, this is one thing that we call it a game changer in as far as border management in the country is concerned. And the reason why we are saying this is because before we had this kind of technology, Arabile, we will just do basic patrols, literally just have people driving around with the cruisers, interacting with the colleagues from the SNDF in case they have to be intercepting somebody along the corridor, especially the vulnerable segments, as it were. But now with the drones, we don't do any of that. So what we do is we set up what we call the response teams. So those response teams are stationed in strategic areas. And on that basis, as we have the drones on the sky, and by the way, this time is 24 hours. And I also want to confirm that this is not a pilot. This is the real deployment. Even after this Easter, this is a permanent deployment as we go forward. So what it basically means is the officials on the ground are having the body cams, and these body cams are also communication devices. So as we see people attempting to enter the country through the drones, we are able to communicate directly with the officials, and we are able to send them the coordinates through the bushes as to where those individuals are based on the AI that is in the drones, and on that basis, they definitely respond directly to that particular individual. And that is why Arabile this time around, we have also been able to have what we had always wanted.
Yeah.
The ability to identify the facilitators and make sure that those ones we arrest and we don't deport, but we take them through to the police station, because they are the ones that facilitate this illegal migration problem.
Your work has certainly ramped up. Then are you content with the safety measures that have been in place across this Easter weekend? And perhaps if you could share your biggest concerns moving forward.
You see, on the return leg, Arabile, which is our biggest problem during the return leg, it is purely the issue relating to illegal migration. Remember, on the exit leg, our biggest issue is about corridor management, making sure there's no congestion as we process people to exit. On the return leg, the biggest problem is the whole issue of illegal migration. And that is why, as I indicated, our focus this time is to identify the people that facilitate this illegal migration. To the extent that, Arabile, you will be aware, in Lebombo, when we're dealing with the exit leg, we had actually been able to identify these facilitators moving people through the bushes, talking to taxi drivers who also had to be on the N4 in Lebombo and wait for these people. So as soon as the people then are facilitated through, they will get into these taxis, and the facilitator will then get paid by this, the taxi drivers. And that is why we started arresting those taxi drivers themselves as the facilitators. And this is something that we have ramped up throughout the country. And this is one of the issues that we are going to be amplifying. And indeed, this is our biggest concern. In terms of the processing, Arabile, in the port, very much confident with the colleagues we have on the ground that we'll be able to manage the volume. Now, the concern is illegal migration, and we are very much ready with the assistance of technology.
Tough day ahead for you, Commissioner. Thank you so much for sparing the time to speak to us. Then we certainly will try to catch up with you as well a little bit later on